India makes history by becoming the first to land on the south pole of the moon. Good evening. Welcome to Primetime News here on TV1. Bringing you the news from the news desk, I am Sandro Satyajit.
And I'm Theruni Karunaratna. Before we move on to your stories in detail, first, your headlines.
India becomes the fourth country to successfully land a spacecraft on the moon. Tense situation in Parliament. MPs Nalin Bandara and Vasanta Yapa Bandara removed from chamber. Mujibur Rahman expresses concern over planned attempts to create a crisis in the country. Army accepts state-of-the-art military communications vehicles from China worth $6.2 billion. Where is the health minister? Women's activist group heads to the health ministry. Sea turtle carcasses on Lankan shores. Investigation underway.
On to your news in detail now. After a 40-day journey starting from Satish Dhawan Space Center, the Indian Space Research Organization's Chandrayaan-3 mission landed successfully, becoming the first spacecraft to land near the south pole of the moon.
Now, Chandrayaan-3 makes India the fourth nation after the Soviet Union, the United States and China to successfully land a spacecraft on the moon.
The Chandrayaan-3 successfully soft landed on the moon at approximately 6 p.m. on Wednesday, Sri Lankan time.
From the Secretary Department of Space and Chairman ISRO, Shri S. Somnath.
Indian Space Research Organization Chief Dr. S. Somnath said, quote, "We have achieved soft landing on the moon. India is on the moon," unquote, following the successful landing of the Chandrayaan-3.
Adarniya Pradhan Mantri ji, Namaskar. Sir, we have achieved soft landing on the moon. India is on the moon.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi joined the mission control headquarters virtually from South Africa, where he is attending the BRICS summit, and said India's successful moon mission is not just India's alone. Chandrayaan-3, translated to mooncraft in Sanskrit, took off from a launch pad in Sriharikota in southern India on the 14th of July. Scientists believe the South Pole's uncharted territory could hold important reserves of frozen water and precious elements. India's previous attempt to land a robotic spacecraft near the moon's little explored South Pole ended in failure in 2019. The $140 million mission in 2019 was intended to study permanently shadowed moon craters that are thought to contain water deposits and were confirmed by India's Chandrayaan-1 orbiter mission in 2008.
Opposition lawmakers Nalin Bandara and Vasanta Yapa Bandara were removed from the Parliament chamber on Wednesday by order of the Speaker for disrupting the proceedings of the House.
A heated exchange broke out in Parliament on Wednesday when MP Vasanta Yapa Bandara from the Freedom People's Congress attempted to raise a question from Pavitra Vanyarachi, the Minister of Wildlife and Forest Resources Conservation, and the ruling faction, saying that there was no time to raise more questions.
ගරු මන්ත්‍රී ප්‍රශ්න අහන්න. ඉතාමත් කෙටියෙන් අහන්න.
තාම කෙටියෙන් අහන්නේ ගරු නියෝජ්‍ය කතානායකතුමනි මේක ඩෝන් යන්න දෙයක් නෑ සංවිධායකතුමා.
මට ඩෝන් යන්නේ නෑ ඩෝන් යන අය දැනගන්න ඕනේ මේක ස්ථාවර නියෝග හොතට කියවලා එන්න.
මේ සංස්කෘතිය පිළිබඳව වටිනාකම් පිළිබඳව වගයි වගක් නැති අයට මෙහෙම ඩෝන් යන්න පුළුවන්. නමුත්
ගරු මන්ත්‍රී දලදා අවස්ථාව දෙන්න නැතුව ඊළඟ එකට යනවා.
දලදා පෙරහැරේ අලිසිය ඉන්න යන්න.
හරි බොහොම ස්තුතියි. ප්‍රශ්න ඔබතුමා ප්‍රශ්න අහන්නේ කතා පවත්වනවා.
කතානායකතුමනි ස්ථාවර නියෝග අනුව පැහැදිලිව මන්ත්‍රීවරුන්ට දෙවෙනි ප්‍රශ්නයක අයිතියක් තියෙනවා. ඒ අයිතිය උල්ලංඝනය කරන්න එපා ඔබතුමා. ඒක දෙන්න.
ගරු නියෝජ්‍ය කතානායකතුමනි එතුමා වසන්ත යාප බණ්ඩාර මැතිතුමා නවක මන්ත්‍රීවරයෙක්.
නෑ එතුමාට අවස්ථාව දෙන්න ගරු මන්ත්‍රීතුමා දැන් එතුමා කතා පවත්වනවානේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ කටයුතු කරන්න බෑ.
A second heated exchange broke out in Parliament when the SJB parliamentarian Nalin Bandara raised a follow-up question.
එතකොට ඔබතුමාලගේ රාජ්‍ය අමාත්‍යවරයෙක් වෙන සාන්ත බණ්ඩාර මහත්තයා 20 වෙනිදා 21 වෙනිදා සඳුදා බිංගිරේ ප්‍රාසභාවේ මහජන දිනය පවත්වනවා. ඊළඟට 20 වෙනිදා නාරම්මල ප්‍රාදේශීය සභාවේ මහජන දිනය පවත්වනවා. පොහොට්ටුවේ බල මණ්ඩලයක් බිංගිරියේ තිබුණා. පොළ ළඟ තමයි ප්‍රාදේශීය සභාව තියෙන්නේ. එතකොට පොහොට්ටුවේගේ තේමේසේ බලහත්කාරයෙන් අරනවා ප්‍රාදේශීය සභාව ඇතුලේ. ප්‍රාදේශීය සභාව ඇතුලේ. එතකොට මට ප්‍රශ්නයක් අහන්න මට කරුණා කරනවා.
අපි 10 මානෙන් පස්සේ මේ ඇමතිවරු කවුරුත් උත්තර දෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඔබතුමා කැමති දෙයක් කරගන්න.
එතකොට ප්‍රාදේශීය සභාව තියෙන්නේ පොහොට්ටුවේ බල මණ්ඩල වලට තේමේස අරින්නද පොහොට්ටුවේ මහජන දින පවත්වන්නද කියලා මම අගමැතිතුමාගෙන් අහන ගමන් මම යෝජනා කරනවා සාන්ත බණ්ඩාර මහත්තයාට
පාර්ලිමේන්තුව අභාවිතා කරනවානේ. ඔව් ගරු මේ රාජ්‍ය අමාත්‍ය යෝජක කතානායකතුමනි මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුව මාධ්‍ය ආවරණයට අවභාවිතා කරනවා. මේ අදාළ ප්‍රශ්නයක් නෙමෙයි අහන්නේ.
අන ප්‍රශ්නයට සම්බන්ධ නැති ඒවා.
ගරු අග්‍රාමාත්‍යතුමා.
How can you allow? ඔබතුමාට ඕන්න කරගන්න බැරි නම් කියන්න.
හරි බොහොම ස්තුතියි.
කල් දියලා යන්න.
හරි. ඇයි ඔබතුමා ඔබතුමාට මෙතන ඒ විදිහට හැසිරෙන්න බෑ. මේ ගරු මන්ත්‍රීතුමාව සභාවෙන් ඉවත් කරන්න. ගරු මන්ත්‍රීතුමාලා නිශ්ශබ්ද වෙන්න ආසන වලට ගිහිල්ලා වාඩි වෙන්න. ආසනයට යන්න. ප්‍රශ්නේ අහන්න ඔතන ඉඳන්නේ ප්‍රශ්නේ අහන්න යන්න වාඩි වෙන්න. කුටුවට ගිහිල්ලා වාඩි වෙන්න. මේ හැසිරෙන විදිය බලන්න මේ මන්ත්‍රීවරුද? මේ මන්ත්‍රීවරු කැලාවල්වලවත් ඉන්නවා. කරුණාකරලා වාඩි වෙන්න. සභාවේ කටයුතු විනාඩි 10කට අත්හිටවනවා.
10 minutes later, the parliament convened.
මේකේ පාසල් දරුවෝ හිටියා මම ඉල්ලීමක් කරනවා ඔබතුමාගෙන් මේකට අඩුම ගන්න මේක අද දවසට ඔවුන්ගේ සභාවාර අවස්ථානම් කරන්න කියලා මම ඔබතුමාගෙන් ඉල්ලීමක් කරනවා.
මගේ වරප්‍රසාද කඩ වුණා. මගේ දෙවනි ප්‍රශ්නේ කියන්නත් කලින් එතුමිය නැගිටලා යන්න ගියා.
අහන ක්‍රමයක් පැහැදිලිව තියෙනවා. අතුරු ප්‍රශ්න දෙක අහන විදියක් තියෙනවා. පැහැදිලි කරන්නේ ඒ දෙකේම අවස්ථාවක් නැහැ.
ඔබතුමාලා දෙන්නට මේ සභාවේ මූලාසනයට ඇවිල්ලා ওই විදිහට තර්ජනය කළා කෑකෝ ගහලා මූලාසනයේ බය කරන්න ඒක රටටත් ජාතියටත් කරන අගෞරවයක් හැටියට සලකලා කරුණා කළා අද දිනේ රැස්වීම වලින් ඔබතුමාලා දෙන්න ඉවත් වෙන්න. ඊට පස්සේ තීරණයක් අපි ගන්නවා ඊළඟ වැඩේ.
Two opposition lawmakers were removed from the parliament chamber as per the order of the speaker.
ඉතින් මේ අවස්ථාවේ කතානායකවරයා දුන්නු තීන්දුවක් අනුව අපි දෙන්නව වේත්‍රධාරීවරුන් විසින් පාර්ලිමේන්තුවෙන් එළියට රැගෙන යන අවස්ථාව මේක. කොළදකන් දෙකක්වත් බොණ්ඩ අවස්ථාව උදා වුණේ නැහැ. කොළදකන් දෙකක් නම් බෙව්වනේ අපි කට්ටියත් එක්ක. විශේෂයෙන්ම අපි කනගාටු වෙනවා මේ ආණ්ඩුව විශේෂයෙන්ම ආණ්ඩු පක්ෂයේ ප්‍රධාන සංවිධායක ප්‍රසන්න රණතුංගගේ උවමනාව මත මැති අබතුරුන්ගේ උවමනාව මත තමයි මේක සිදු වුණේ.
Former Sri Lankan lawmaker Mujibur Rahman from the Samaki Jana Balawegaya on Wednesday says that when considering the events that took place in recent days, there are concerns whether these events are being planned and carried out by a certain group in order to create a crisis situation in the country. He voiced these concerns rather at a media briefing in Colombo.
It is clear that certain groups are issuing statements and intervening over the Kurundi issue in order to create tensions. Thereafter, we witnessed a land dispute in the Batticaloa district. We witnessed the manner in which these events were paving the way for communal tensions. Indian intelligence agencies have issued a stark warning against the potential for ethnic conflict in Sri Lanka. Upon considering these events and statements, we wonder if they were pre-planned in order to once again create racial tensions in the country. We wonder if these are attempts being made by the incumbent government to remain in power. The people must be wise. The Rajapaksas and the Vikramasinghas may launch conspiracies again to retain their power. It is now clear that the Easter Sunday attacks were the result of a conspiracy. When we read the Presidential Commission report, it is clear to us that politicians always play the race card. That is what has happened throughout history. We wonder if these events are being planned and carried out in order to create a crisis in the country.
Concerns are now mounting over a statement made by UNP MP Vajirabewardena at the President's Media Centre recently.
The person who attacked the Pentagon passed the airport with his passport and bag. They can file an FR application. However, when travelling by air, his mindset is one of terrorism. Then he crashes into the World Trade Center. Before the incident in Sri Lanka, the intelligence agency said that 25 people were trained in Syria and that they were living normal lives upon returning to Sri Lanka. So, when they get a message, they will detonate explosives. That is called mental terrorism. There are laws to control that in the world. That is required for Sri Lanka as well, if we aspire for national security.
Opposition MPs expressed concerns over this statement in Parliament on Wednesday.
Vajirabewardena is aware of the ISIS bombers in Sri Lanka. If he is not arrested, another attack will take place and people will die. Is this another plan to retain power? Arrest those ISIS members. Will investors want to come to Sri Lanka and invest when there are racial and communal tensions? There is talk about reigniting racial and communal tensions. Former Minister Vajirabewardena, a close friend of the President, said that 25 people trained by ISIS are in the country. They may detonate explosives when they are told to do so. If there is such a threat, those people need to be arrested. So, will investors and tourists visit Sri Lanka when such comments are made?
Former MP Mujibur Rahman said that instead of making statements, MP Vajirabewardena must file a complaint over the matter with the security forces.
Vajirabewardena is not a person to be taken lightly. If he makes such comments to the media, they need to be taken seriously. We would appreciate it if MP Vajirabewardena would file a complaint with the police over the matter instead of making statements to the media. If there are ISIS operators, they need to be identified and arrested.
Meanwhile, international media reported that Sri Lanka is reportedly processing a request made by China to allow a research ship to dock in the country.
Quoting a Sri Lankan Foreign Ministry spokesperson, international media outlets reported that Sri Lanka is reportedly processing a request by China to allow a research ship to dock in the country, adding that no dates have been fixed yet for the visit. The Sri Lanka Navy on the 16th of August confirmed that the Siang 6 will reach Sri Lanka on the 25th of October and will be involved in research operations in the Sea of Sri Lanka for a period of 17 days. Sri Lanka Navy said that the Siang 6 research and survey vessel will be reaching Sri Lanka for joint research operations with the National Aquatic Resources Research and Development Agency, also known as NARA. This is not the first time that the Siang 6 research and survey vessel will be visiting Sri Lanka. The Siang 6 had previously visited Sri Lanka on the 20th of April 2022 and remained in the Sea of Sri Lanka for a total of 10 days. The Siang 6 research and survey vessel was anchored in the Suju River in Fujian in South China.
The Sri Lankan Army accepted 11 special communication vehicles that had been gifted to the Ministry of Defence under the Chinese military grant scheme. The $6.2 million worth of fleet was officially accepted by the acting Defence Minister Premita Bandara Thenakun during a ceremony organised at the Army headquarters premises on Tuesday. Lieutenant General Vikram Lianage, Commander of the Army, and Senior Colonel Zhu Bo, Defence Attaché at the Embassy of the People's Republic of China in Sri Lanka, were among the distinguished invitees to the occasion. The formal signing of documents related to the grant of vehicles took place between Senior Colonel Zhu Bo, Defence Attaché at the Embassy of the People's Republic of China in Sri Lanka, and Major General K.A.W.S. Ratnayaka, Chief Signal Officer of the Army. Subsequently, 10 field communication vehicles and a mobile command and control vehicle was symbolically handed over to State Minister Premita Bandara Thenakun by Senior Colonel Zhu Bo in the premises.
Sri Lanka's High Commissioner to India, Milinda Moragada, says that Sri Lanka's security anchor is India in the Indo-Pacific context.
Sri Lanka's High Commissioner to India, Milinda Morogoda, said Sri Lanka believes that due to its strategic location and proximity to the Indian mainland, Colombo's security interests are aligned with that of New Delhi's. He said that is the reason why the island nation identifies India as the anchor when it comes to the Indo-Pacific strategic framework in the Indian Ocean. Morogoda told India media that Sri Lanka has learned to live with the fact that due to its geographical location, it will always be the theatre where the strategic competition between India and China will be played out. However, he said Colombo shares a special relationship with New Delhi that cannot be compared with other bilateral ties that the country has due to historical, civilizational, genetic as well as geographical linkages. He said that when it comes to security interests, India's security and Sri Lanka's security are the same, and that is logical because of where the countries are located.
Meanwhile, an inquiry has revealed that the elephant rampage reported during the second Kumbal Perahara of the Temple of the Sacred Tooth relic was caused when the elephant from the Katharagama Devalaya became frightened while parading the streets on Tuesday night.
Now, a spokesperson for the Temple of the Sacred Tooth relic said that the situation was brought under control on Tuesday night itself, and the Perahara operations will continue without any hindrance.
The second Kumbal Perahara of the Temple of the Sacred Tooth relic in Kandy paraded the streets at the auspicious time of 7:05 p.m. on Tuesday night. Moments later, an elephant from the Katharagama Devala Perahara that was part of the Perahara from all the 4 Devalas became frightened while parading the streets and went on a rampage. Thereafter, several other elephants in the Perahara also became agitated due to the behavior of this particular elephant. Organizers of the Perahara thereafter managed to control the situation.
There are certain horns used by children, so when one was used, the elephant put its trunk out to inspect it. That is what they usually do. When the elephant extended its trunk, the person blew the horn and it frightened the creature. When he turned, he collided with the other elephant carrying the casket. Then it started to run. I could have stopped the elephant within 100 meters, but the people on either side of the road were making a lot of noise. That frightened the elephant even more. This incident surrounded one elephant. However, in our herd, even if one elephant faces an issue, the others continue with what they were doing. Only the 2 closest elephants reacted, and the others understood it. Thereafter, everything was back to normal.
More than 14 sea turtle carcasses have been discovered from the western coastline of Sri Lanka over the past 48 hours.
Authorities are yet to confirm the cause of these deaths.
Sea turtle carcasses had washed up ashore yesterday and today along the coastline from Vallavatta to Golface and the beaches of Sarakkuwa in Negombo, Pamunugama and Mount Lavinia. More than 7 dead sea turtles were discovered along the coastline from Vallavatta to Golface yesterday.
Golface has been identified as a location where sea turtles lay eggs. Sea turtles often populate this area. We cannot reveal conclusively if this is a result of something that happened in this area or elsewhere, but it could be because of something that happened in the western zone. All these carcasses are of olive ridley turtles. We are conducting investigations into the cause of death. We have observed a sudden increase in deaths over the past few days. This is an unusual phenomenon. There are certain suspicions on why these deaths occurred. We can reveal further details in the coming days.
5 more sea turtle carcasses were found from the Sarakwa beach in Negombo this morning.
This is the first time in recent history where many dead animals were discovered at once. We believe this is a result of the use of explosives.
2 sea turtle carcasses were discovered from the Pamunugama beach, while another sea turtle death was reported from Mount Lavinia. Presenting a motion to the Colombo Fort Magistrates Court, the Department of Wildlife Conservation produced in court the 4 sea turtle carcasses discovered from Galle Face. Fort Magistrate Tilina Gamage ordered the veterinary officer of Bellangwilla to conduct a post-mortem examination on the remains and report facts to court on the causes of death.
10 olive titty turtles washed off to our coast. When we checked their morphology and the body features, we understood that they are from same age, same size, the same species, and internationally they are vulnerable. So what we expect is that NARA and again Department of Wildlife Conservation, they will collect some those carcasses and do some post-mortems. But before that, what we can predict is that there will be some issues with climate change, or else some blast fishing happen in this area, or else some anomalies in water qualities, maybe high temperature or maybe toxic substances.
Meanwhile, a black oil-based liquid has been identified on the waters of the sea in Shillong for over 3 days. Fishermen revealed quantities of their catch has also reduced as a result.
Around 300 of the 500 fishing boats did not set out to sea because this liquid settled on the nets and we were unable to clean them. This is not a natural liquid. We suspect that this is either a chemical or some type of oil leaking from the Express Pearl wreck.
Remnants of the Express Pearl vessel that caught fire several years ago are located 20 nautical miles from the western coastline, where sea turtle carcasses have been discovered.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe has said that Sri Lanka's expertise in international economics, especially in climate financing linked to debt management, positions Sri Lanka uniquely to address climate change.
A progress review on climate change initiatives was held at the President's office on Wednesday, underscoring Sri Lanka's commitment to climate action and international collaboration. The meeting, presided over by President Ranil Wickremesinghe, brought together key advisors and experts to discuss strategies to strengthen the nation's response to climate change.
You can't do anything without financing. So really we have to be very strong locally and internationally, both on what to do. And let's make that one of our strengths. A lot of things to do on how to bring climate change around, but very few people are going to come up with where the money is going to be made available. So let Sri Lanka specialize international economics on this whole global climate financing, the struggle that's going on, which is related to debt financing, since we are already in it. Debt and this both will have to come together. There will be a national consultative committee that every agency involved in it, public or private, will be in this committee. So it may have about 100 or 150 members, but that should be the one that will be consulted at least once in 6 months as to the progress that's being made. Foreign Ministry had to work out with Environment Ministry on the international aspect, but I think the three of you will have to give us one on the international financing one. We can tie it up to our Institute of Economics and Trade, that Sri Lanka becomes a center, one center on international global financing and debt. What are the outcomes that will emanate from the UN General Assembly? Then prepare ourselves for your Asia Pacific Ministers meeting, and from there how do we go on to COP28 and what's the role that we are going to play? Now that's what you all have to tell us.
News first with the people.
Women for Justice activists protested opposite the Health Ministry on Wednesday morning.
Women for Justice activists protested opposite the Health Ministry on Wednesday, demanding solutions to the issues that have arisen in the health sector, especially with regard to a shortage of medicine and the importation of substandard medicines. The group then attempted to enter the ministry premises to hand over a letter to the Minister of Health. However, they were prevented by the security officials. Later, 3 activists were granted permission to meet the secretary of the ministry.
The minister will not come to the ministry. There is a secretary who is unable to provide any answer. The secretary only accepted the letter. We handed over a letter that states the problem this country is facing. The letter was only accepted by the secretary.
Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa raised concerns in Parliament with regard to the ailing health sector in the country.
After a mass exodus of medical professionals, certain measures are introduced to prevent it. Does the government have a plan to introduce foreign doctors to the country's health service to address the shortage? As there is an insufficient number of health sector professionals, including nurses and technicians, many activities in hospitals have been crippled. Is the government not aware of this? CT scans, MRIs and other machinery have not been properly maintained at state hospitals. Is the government aware that these devices are in a dilapidated state? Are you aware of the meningococcal vaccine? We are told that the vaccine was not available for almost a year. That vaccine is mandatory for the Hajj pilgrims. It says that the WHO has delivered a shipment, but the health ministry has failed to clear it. The questions raised by the opposition leader were made available to me last evening. I need to collect the data from 4 separate ministries. I request for a reasonable time to respond comprehensively. When you ask for time, we allow it. However, I must say that if the minister and officials are not aware of the details, God bless the health sector. I am working with the finance ministry to deliver a comprehensive response. Until I get the details, I cannot respond in a comprehensive manner. I can give you a half-baked response.
The Planters Association of Ceylon decreed verbal abuse by Minister Jeevan Thondaman on Ratwatte Estate management.
The Planters Association of Ceylon in a statement decried the verbal abuse by Minister Jeevan Thondaman on Ratwatte Estate management. It said that on Sunday, 20th August 2023, Minister of Water Supply and Estate Infrastructure Development Jeevan Thondaman used abusive language and threatened the senior management of Ratwatte Estate belonging to Alkado plantations. The Planters Association of Ceylon vehemently condemns this verbal attack and calls for an impartial investigation. It added that the situation arose due to non-workers of the estate having put up illegal constructions which the management wanted removed immediately. It went on to note that after reporting the matter to the police, the management exercised their authority to protect the state property as custodians of the land in accordance with the law. The land of Ratwatte Estate belongs to the government, with Alkado plantations having been awarded the management contract for it. The statement noted that as the apex body of the plantation industry, the Planters Association of Ceylon condemns such acts of high-handed abuse and threat by a government cabinet minister. The Planters Association of Ceylon call upon the minister to allow the management of relevant plantation companies to resolve such internal issues in accordance with the laws of the land.
The Royal Thai Embassy hosted a lecture on sustainable leadership in Colombo. The lecture was presented by the former governor of the Bank of Thailand. The Royal Thai Embassy hosted a lecture on cultivating new generations of leaders for the sustainable world in Colombo. The lecture was presented by Dr. Veerathai Santiprob, former governor of the Bank of Thailand.
You may not notice that in many parts of the world, people have lost their livelihood as a result of climate change, resulting in mass migration. The 6 sea forces that can contribute to instability, climate catastrophe, conflicts, changing demographic structure, cyber technology, culture and value erosion, and the collapse of the center. These 6 C forces do not work separately. They indeed interact with one another, intensifying the impacts. The current hunger crisis includes people living in rural areas as well as those living in the cities. Given the rapid technology advancements that we have seen in the world during the past few decades, it is very difficult, or it is unimaginable to think that our world is going through a hunger crisis of this magnitude. So to safeguard sustainability, we need to proactively and effectively tackle these global challenges. We need not just leaders, but new generation of leaders. What is missing or has been underemphasized in traditional curriculum is related to the training of our own operating systems, which is our own mind. So to deal with the unsustainable world, we need future leaders who are committed to the greater good for the world and the society, as opposed to their own benefits. Future leaders need to be trained to take care of the smallest component inside them. That is their own mind.
The event concluded with informal networking and further conversations with Dr. Santiprobe.
Sri Lankan adventurer Johan Pires has successfully climbed Mount Elbrus in Russia and raised the Sri Lankan flag for the first time over Europe.
Mount Elbrus is the highest and most prominent peak in Russia and Europe. Sri Lankan adventurer Johan Pires has successfully climbed Mount Elbrus in Russia and raised the Sri Lankan flag for the first time over Europe. Johan Pires became the second Sri Lankan to summit the world's tallest mountain, reaching the peak of Mount Everest in 2018. Johan was a part of the expedition that helped giant Ikuru Tumpala become the first Sri Lankan to summit Mount Everest back in 2016.
Wednesday's leg of the second phase of the LOLC Divisavya program took place in the Kurunegala district.
The LOLC Divisavya program is taking place to support the Sri Lankan student population. School books and stationery items were distributed among students of the Huramadala Mahavidyalaya, Rangalle Pola Primary Vidyalaya, Yakavita Primary Vidyalaya and the Ranavata Primary Vidyalaya that come under the Giriul Education Zone. School supplies were distributed among students of 28 schools in the Giriul Education Zone at the Zonal Education Office. School supplies were also distributed among students of 25 schools in the Kulyapiti Education Zone at the Zonal Education Office. Another LOLC Divisavya team distributed school books and stationery items among students of the Galdenia Primary Vidyalaya, Otaraguanpala Primary Vidyalaya, Villolua Primary Vidyalaya and the Kitaldenia Primary Vidyalaya. This world initiative is a collaboration between the LOLC group and the Ministry of Education.
On to news overseas now. Pakistani rescuers pulled 7 children and 1 man to safety after their cable car became stranded high over a remote ravine on Tuesday, ending an ordeal lasting more than 15 hours.
The high-risk operation in the north of Pakistan was completed in the darkness of night after the cable car snagged early in the morning, leaving it hanging precariously at an angle all day. A military helicopter rescue operation was called off as night fell after 2 children had been pulled to safety. Floodlights were installed and a ground-based rescue continued. Before the helicopter rescue was called off, TV footage showed 1 child being lifted off the cable car in a harness, swinging side to side before being lowered to the ground. A security source said that cable crossing experts had been trying to rescue the children one by one by transferring them onto a small platform along the cable.
Former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra was transferred to a hospital overnight, hours after returning to Thailand after some 15 years in exile and being jailed on a series of criminal charges.
The Corrections Department said in a statement that 74-year-old Thaksin had been taken to Bangkok's police hospital in the early hours of Wednesday amid concerns about his blood pressure and low blood oxygen levels. Thaksin, a billionaire who was prime minister until he was removed from office in a coup in 2006, flew into Bangkok on a private jet on Tuesday morning as his Pheu Thai party prepared to form a new government with several political parties, including some aligned with the military. Sreta Thavisin, the party's choice as Prime Minister, secured parliamentary backing on Tuesday evening and royal endorsement on Wednesday.
Chinese President Xi Jinping has called for an expansion of the BRICS grouping of emerging economies to build a more just and equitable international order.
In a speech delivered on his behalf at the start of the BRICS summit in Johannesburg, South Africa on Tuesday, Chinese President Xi Jinping said China had no wish to engage in great power competition or create bloc confrontation. The BRICS nations of Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, which represent a quarter of the global economy, are meeting for 3 days from the 22nd of August to the 24th. It was not clear why Xi Jinping did not participate in the event, which was attended by South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, Brazilian President Lula da Silva and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Russia's President Vladimir Putin participated via video call after his travel to South Africa was complicated by an international criminal court arrest warrant issued for him in March. China and Russia, both of which have been heavily sanctioned by the United States, have been keen to expand BRICS to develop a counter to Western dominance over international institutions and affairs. Now in your sports news, the 2023 Asia Cup is only days away, with defending champion Sri Lanka looking to retain the trophy.
Now with Sri Lanka's cricket fans eagerly awaiting the start of the tournament, the MTV-MBC Champion Network secured the official broadcasting rights for the 2023 Asia Cup today.
The announcement was made during a media briefing in Battaramulla today with the participation of the main sponsors of this year's Asia Cup.
Senior figures of the Capital Maharaja Group, Sri Lanka Cricket, players representing the national team, sponsors and media personnel were present at the event. The curtain raiser for this year's Asia Cup will be held on the 30th of August in Multan, Pakistan, when Pakistan take on Nepal. The first match hosted in Sri Lanka will be held on the 31st of August in Pallekele between Sri Lanka and Bangladesh. The 2023 Asia Cup will feature 6 teams with 13 matches in total. The final of the Asia Cup will be held at the R. Premadasa Stadium in Colombo on the 17th of September. Speaking at the event that was held earlier today, Group Director and CEO of the Capital Maharaja Group, Sunil Kanoja, had this to say.
We started with broadcasting the World Cup, which was held last year, and now we are going ahead with the Asia Cup. And we have just strengthened our TV1 network so that the channel can be dedicated full time to cricket and such events, especially sports events. And we will be doing a lot of cricket. Going forward, the calendar is full, and I hope the viewers will enjoy.
Group Director of the Capital Maharaja Group, Shivan Daniel, also spoke during the event.
You see, there's a reason why MTV has invested in the Asia Cup. At MTV, we do our best. We do our very best to invest in the best content possible. So together, what we're trying to do is really uplift this nation. I know that there are challenges, and we're all facing these challenges, ladies and gentlemen. But together, using this wonderful game that we all love so much, cricket, I'm sure that we can change the trajectory of this nation in some small way.
The CEO of MTV Channel Private Limited, Susara Dinal, also addressed the gathering. Over the past 2 months, our engineering team worked tirelessly to expand the coverage area of TV1 to be able to cover the entire country in order to bring to you the 2023 Asia Cup and other showpiece sporting events. We strengthened our transmission capabilities, keeping in mind the ultimate cricket tournament later this year, which is the World Cup. The Sri Lankan audience can view all matches of the 2023 Asia Cup exclusively through TV1.
The second game between Indian Grandmaster R. Praggnanandhaa and world number 1 Magnus Carlsen ended in a draw on Wednesday.
Indian Grandmaster R. Praggnanandhaa drew the second classical game of the final of the FIDE World Cup against world number 1 Magnus Carlsen on Wednesday. The two players settled for a quiet draw in 30 moves after 1.5 hours of play in Game 2. The champion will be decided in the tie-breaks on Thursday.
Decides to take with this rook and offers a draw. Prag accepts it immediately, and the first game.
Karma Fight League, a tournament organized by a group of fight enthusiasts in Sri Lanka, which is to be held on the 26th of August, brings you the entertainment, rush and the thrill of pure kickboxing.
Now the main event of KFL this time will be between two well-known combat athletes, Gavin Linden and Brian Cholton. Now Senitha Senanaika files this report.
In the world of combat sports, kickboxing is a brutal martial art. In Sri Lanka, only a few have performed at the highest level of kickboxing. Gavin Linden and Brian Cholton are two fighters who are set to headline the main event of the Karma Fight League kickboxing tournament. The bout will be held under K1 rules. Brian and Gavin were former sparring partners who used to train together. We spoke to both the fighters before they shared the ring this Saturday.
Every fighter, even though you are not supposed to have an ego, you're never supposed to, it's always respect. But deep down, you always want to, showcase your talents, to prove that you're the best. There's always someone greater than you, but it's always good to aspire to be the best no matter what you do. And yes, so this fight means a lot to me, simply the fact that it is a fight and I really badly want to win it no matter what. And yes, I've trained with him, I've sparred with him. At the end of the day, it's part of the job, right? You'll end up fighting your friends, maybe your enemies. You never know. You never know who you'll get in the future. And in the ring, we're just two guys who are going to duke it out and may the best man win, but personally, I have no issues with it.
Going into any fight, bro, there's always a risk, right? You could be the best in the world, but the best in the world there's someone that beats it. But it's, again, as I said before, it's a matter of who's the best man on that night. So hopefully our guy gets the win. If not, Brian will. Whoever does better on that night will get the win. That's simply as simple as it can get in a fight.
In 2022, Gavin won the World Championship of the International Muay Thai Organization, defeating an Indian fighter.
ඇඩිට එයා වින් කරලා තියෙනවා. හොඳ ෆයිටර් කෙනෙක්. ඒ කියලා KFL එක තනිකරම කික් බොක්සින් ඉවෙන්ට් එකක්. මගේ ස්ට්‍රයිකින් ඇඟේ තියෙන්නේ. බලමු අපි ඉස්සරහට මගේ.
Even though we train together, he has never seen the real me. He hasn't seen what I am truly capable of. And at the end of the day, you never know what the outcome will be. At that day, the best man wins. And good luck to him, but I'm confident in my abilities and I believe that I will come out on top.
Brian has competed in multiple bouts in different disciplines, namely Muay Thai, kickboxing and MMA.
Brian, I have discipline in fight. Finish within second round, TKO, කරන්න තමයි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ. මම හිතනවා ස්ටයිලිස්ටිකලි හොඳ මැච් අප් එකක් කියලා. මේක එයාගේ දෙන්නගේම රීච් එකයි දෙන්නගේම ස්ටයිල් එකයි මේක නම් හොඳ ඉන්ටරෙස්ටිං සීන් එකක් වෙන්නේ. මට හැමදෙස්සෙම මතක් වෙන්නේ ෆ්‍රැන්සිස් ඉංගාගේ සිරිල්ගලන්ගේ ෆයිට් එක. මොකද ඒගොල්ලෝ කාලය ටීම්මේට්ස් වෙලා හිටියා, ස්පාරින් කරා. බෑඩ් බ්ලඩ් එකක් නැහැ. අපි opponent කෙනෙක් විතරයි. ඕන කෙනෙක් ෆයිට් කරන රින් එකට එනවා නම් අපිට ෆයිට් කරන්න වෙනවා. ඉන්හා ඉතින් වෙන දෙයක් නැහැ.
Karma Fight League will feature 6 more bouts consisting of up-and-coming fighters from Kurunegala and Colombo. Yes FM is the proud radio partner of the Karma Fight League.
That's a wrap of Primetime News here on TV1. Stay tuned to our social media pages to stay updated with the very latest. Bringing you the news from the news desk, I am Sandro Satyajit signing off.
And I'm Thirni Karnaratna. Do stay tuned to News First, and Face the Nation is coming up next. Thank you very much for watching Primetime News. Take care and good night.